This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Well, it's Liberation Day in the United States. It's the 2nd of April, and the 47th president of the United States, Donald Trump, has made big promises for today. As we're talking to you now, we don't know specifically what this next wave of tariffs we're expecting is going to look like, but to say that folks are bracing on both sides of the border would be an understatement. We're going to get into this today with Nick Taylor-Vaisey. He's the Ottawa Bureau Chief for POLITICO, and we're checking in with the team at POLITICO every Wednesday through this election campaign. I'm contributing to their Ottawa Playbook every Thursday. What does this mean for Canadians? Sure. And how does this impact the federal campaign? Yeah, the messaging from Pierre Poilievre, from Mark Carney, and from the other leaders in contention as well. What's Jagmeet Singh's message through all of this? But what's particularly interesting is what's happening stateside as senators, Republicans, and Democrats are calling on the Trump White House to reverse this plan, painting a dire picture, including the agriculture sector in the United States. One Senator, Tom Tillis, out of North Carolina, describing farmers who are, quote, one crop away from bankruptcy. We're going to get into what this day truly will cost you in this episode of Real Talk. But we're going to kick off in just a second with the Real Talk rumor mill churning at the beginning and the wrap of our April 1st episode. Now, we had some emails from some of you that were quite rightfully wondering, John, they were wondering whether or not this was an April Fool's joke.
I was wondering.
Whether we were being hook, line, and sinkered, whether they were being hook, line, and sinkered.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it yesterday, and we both looked at each other like, are we getting hosed here?
Well, it turns out we're not, as the announcement materialized, and unless the Liberal Party of Canada is in on the April Fool's joke.
Which would be wild.
It would be wild.
The best April Fool's joke ever. Very intricate.
And would bring into question the credibility of the entire exercise. In just 30 seconds from now, we'll tell you who we were talking about. If you haven't already realized, it's somebody pretty tight with the Real Talk family. This show's going to move fast, and we're grateful you're here with us. This show is made possible with the presenting sponsorship of Alberta's top online real estate school. You can find them at relo.ca. That's RELO.ca, where better real estate training starts. Real estate learning online for the bold and ambitious, and wherever you're at in your career, they're going to help you find the next level. Maybe you're just getting started. You're watching people working in real estate. You're going, gosh, looks like they're always enjoying what they're doing. They're helping people out. They have unlimited earning potential. Looks good to me, especially if you've been stuck in a cubicle. But what if you're like JR, that real talker that emailed in a while ago, graduated from Relo with their commercial real estate license a year ago. They're having so much fun. They're going back to Relo to get their residential real estate license. They're broadening their offerings to their clients, all with the help at relo.ca. Make sure if you're signing up for the Alberta residential or commercial real estate bundles that you use the promo code Ryan100. That's all one word, Ryan100. If you sign up for both, it'll save you a couple $100. Again, that promo code Ryan100 at relo.ca. Well, it's a move that's certainly capturing attention, not just in Calgary, but across Alberta. A candidate throwing his hat into the ring in the riding of Calgary Confederation to take on Conservative Jeremy Nixon. And what makes this particularly interesting is not that this candidate is a vice president at the University of Calgary, not that he has extensive experience in government communications, having held some of the top posts, or, Johnny, not even the fact that he's been a member of the Real Talk Editorial Board since its inception. He'll be stepping away from that, but a lot of people are particularly intrigued by this candidacy because he's a co-host of one of Canada's most popular political podcasts. That's right, Corey Hogan is the Liberal contender, the candidate in Calgary Confederation, and he now joins us live. From where, Corey? Campaign HQ?
Well, from my basement right now. I've been a candidate for not even 24 hours, but campaign HQ later today.
Well, congratulations, man. I mean, you've communicated about politics, you've analyzed politics, you've strategized around politics. Is this your first time ever? I mean, I'm talking like junior high student council. I'm talking all the way up. Is this your first time ever putting your name on a ballot?
No, I got to tell you, junior high council, I did put my name on a ballot. I won. All the glory that came with that, you can imagine, being a junior high counselor. And I did run for a nomination back in 2008, 2009, I think, for the Liberals. Lost that by 5 votes. Went on to be their executive director. But this is the first time with the real show, right? Like the big time. And it's kind of funny because I'm sitting there doing things, thinking about, man, how would me, the campaign manager, critique me, the candidate at this point? It's a bit of a different vibe, to put it mildly.
So this literally materialized in what, the last number of days? Like, for background, the former Liberal candidate Thomas Keeper resigned after, I guess, an assault charge saw the light of day from about 20 years ago. So they had an opening in a riding that some people are wondering which way it might go. For people not familiar, Conservative Len Weber's been in that riding a long time. He's retiring, so it's a wide open race. What convinced you to sign up?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of Canadians, I've been looking at what's been going on south of the border, the effect on us, imagining what some of that coming north of here would mean, and getting a little more active, a little more animated. I mean, if you follow me on social media, I've basically unspooled at different times based on the various things Donald Trump has done. And it really got me thinking, well, what am I doing as a Canadian, right? What am I doing? It's easy to say this. It's easy to sit in your comfortable existence and critique it, but you're going to put some skin in the game? Let's see. And so that was going on in the background. I was trying to find various ways I could do that. I was engaging more in various conversations, putting out think pieces, all of that. But really, at the end of the day, these decisions are made by elected officials, and I want to make sure there's strong Alberta voices that are standing up for Confederation. So that's the vague answer. The very specific answer is I got a phone call at 12:06 on Friday afternoon saying, "Hey, the candidate in Confederation's about to be out. You interested? I know you live there. I know you care about this riding, basically. Yeah, you've expressed interest in the past, and now's maybe the time." So then I spent, an excruciating 4 days being scrutinized for previous comments made by Stephen Carter, standing next to them, right? So.
Sure. Yeah, I guess so. Kira Gunn, the NDP candidate in that riding, Jeremy Nixon is running to represent Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives. Nixon is kind of I don't know if I want to call it a name that carries some political royalty. It certainly carries political sway in Calgary.
Yeah.
He's the younger brother, right, of Jason Nixon, who's basically Jason Kenney's lieutenant and obviously a prominent UCP cabinet minister and MLA. And, obviously their family behind the mustard seed and all that jazz. Talk to me about what's at stake in the riding, how you win this one. Talk to us about the riding itself, Calgary Confederation, the dynamic at play there and what people care about.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the riding just north of downtown. For those who don't know, it includes the university. It includes Bowness, varsity communities, all the way east to where I live in Che. And there's a lot going on. It's a great little urban riding, that next level out from the tall towers. And it's one of those places that is never been that conservative, right? Like it was the one seat in Calgary Mountain View that was not conservative when everything was conservative. Recently, like all the NDPs won everything in this area. It's a progressive area. And in 2015, the Liberals came within 1.5% of the vote of knocking off the Conservative there. And then, of course, more recently, even in the 2021 election, which nobody thinks of as a high watermark for the Liberals or anything like that, if you had combined the Liberal, NDP, and Green vote, boom, there you go. You win. So like it's one of those places where there's lots of progressive thought, there's lots of moderate thought, and it just needs to all come together behind one candidate. And then it's not even a contest, frankly, then it is a riding like that. But that's never really happened. So the push there would have to be to make that happen. And that sort of leads us into talking about Nixon. Nixon was an MLA in Calgary-Klein, I believe. And he was rejected by the voters, and I think he was seen as a little bit too extreme. I don't think that his actions since then have really washed that off. He's been very involved in the UCP. I think he was was he executive director, or he's one of the senior directors there, and he's been very closely tied to kind of this Americanization of Alberta politics, and I don't think that's what people in Confederation are looking for. And certainly, when Nixon was announced as a candidate, it was just a little bit more fuel for me to say, oh my God, well, we need to have some reasonable representation here. So what am I doing about it?
Yeah, so it's interesting, and I know that there's a lot of crossover audience here for subscribers and supporters of Real Talk. Many of them are obviously subscribers and listeners to the Strategists, and both shows have been sort of analyzing the polls over the past and just the obvious stuff happening in front of us over the past couple of years. All right, I mean, Pierre Poilievre's rise to leadership, doubling the membership, the fundraising prowess that he's kind of demonstrated, and what was driving that, and then you see the Liberals with this just this dramatic turnaround. Mark Carney, however much you want to believe in the polls, but people were talking at one point about the Liberals potentially risking losing official party status.
Yeah, total wipeout was
like
on
a
the table.
total wipeout.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that had that still been the case, had that still been the trend, that you would not be leaving your post, your high-ranking post at the University of Calgary to get absolutely walloped in Canada's most conservative province. Win or lose, you take a bit of a risk sticking your neck out there.
Oh, big time. And look, let's be honest, I wouldn't be, right? But when Mark Carney came, he changed the game, and not just in the sense of the polls, but in the sense of the Liberal Party. And if I'm being honest, and I've said this on the podcast, he brought back a version of the Liberal Party that I kind of thought didn't exist anymore, right? And his view of having, a strong economy, that being the engine, but then saying, that's great, you got a big engine. What do we do with it? Let's be socially thoughtful. Let's be environmentally thoughtful. Let's build the Canada we want to build. I think that's great. I think that's exactly where the Liberals need to be. That's the Liberal Party that I joined back in the day. And so I'm pretty thrilled. I think that that's exactly what this country needs always. And certainly at this moment, it's never been more important.
We've got some real talkers here that are kind of reading into what they saw or didn't see the other day. Dubious in our live chat powered by Park Power, letting us know that they just actually finished listening to the most recent Strategists before tuning into this live, which is good to hear. But Dubious is wondering why your colleague Stephen Carter was not at your launch. He's speculating. He's heard rumors that Carter's holed up in a quote dank hotel room in Ottawa. What's the real reason?
Carter's a busy guy. He's got like 5 major campaigns he's working on right now. But I'll tell you something. He's been really close and really tight and helped out a lot with stuff over the past couple of days, including the decision, right? Zane and Stephen have been people who have been pushing me to do this, thinking there'd be a lot of value. Others too, but of course they're the ones on the podcast with me. And he's been very active in the campaign. I think he's in Vancouver right now, so that's why he wasn't at the event we had last night. But he'll be around to a degree that makes sense for me and Stephen, So he's a great guy.
In a context that makes sense for you and Stephen, isn't that an interesting way to put it? I wouldn't ask most people, most candidates this, because you'd probably get in the weeds and it would actually be boring. But the interesting thing is your inner circle of friends / advisors are very prominent political commentators. Yeah. Carter and Zane. I mean, everybody knows them. Everyone sees Zane Velji on CBC every 48 hours or so. Take us into that conversation and what did they tell you? And in 5 sentences or less, what were the pros and the cons that resonated with you?
Well, Zane, Zane asked the questions on the pod, so sometimes people don't know, but he really is the social conscience of it. Like, he really passionately believes things. And so his line was like, you got to do it. You got to do it. It's right for the country. It's so important. This is the time. This is the moment. Don't turn up this chance. Carter, being the Machiavellian bastard that he is and we all love, was like, you can win. You got to do this. This makes a lot of sense electorally. This is the opportunity. So, you've got the good angel and the bad angel on your shoulder, and they're both telling you the same thing. They're saying this is the time. This is the moment. And so then I talked to the normal angel, my wife, and she says, yeah, this is probably something that you need to do. And then we're off to the races.
All right. Well, you'll be stepping away from other commitments, including the Real Talk Editorial Board. But just to speak frankly with you, Johnny and I already had this conversation. It takes us so much effort and time to change the credits that we're just still.
We're not changing it.
We're not changing the credits. We're leaving your name in there. So just so people know. But now it's on the record.
It's on the record. It's canonical. I tried to step back for the election.
So my guess is you've been a candidate for less than 24 hours as we're speaking here. You've probably not yet spoken directly to Mark Carney, have you?
No.
Okay.
It's on our pod, there's this running gag that both Stephen and Zane know Mark well, and I'm the one who likes him the most. So I think I look forward to that call, and maybe I'll fanboy out when I get it, but has not happened yet.
Okay, well, I do want to ask you this in context. We're about to get into this with Nick Taylor-Vaisey, Ottawa bureau chief at Politico. It's Liberation Day and the tariffs and all that jazz. Oh, yeah. I suspect you've not picked Carney's brain nor offered your suggestions on what the Liberal Party's messaging should be today around this. But as a strategist, as an analyst, put on your different cap now. What's one thing that you're particularly thinking about, paying close attention to today, April 2nd, and moving forward?
Well, yeah, I mean, like with with Trump, A, we never know what he's going to say, and B, we never know if he's going to stick to it, right? And so you don't want to get into the game of just communicating relative to the specifics. You've got to broaden it. You've got to go back. You've got to make the points that Mark Carney has said, that America is no longer the reliable trade partner they were. And so as a sovereign nation, what are we going to do about it? We can't just sit here and hope that a bunch of people in Michigan decide to vote for a Democrat in 3 years. That's not how a country is run. So we got to take control of our own lives, and that's got to be the Liberal message. It's got to be about building a strong Canada that allows us to kind of ride out the waves, whatever they may be in the future. Maybe there's a better U.S. government in terms of Canadian relations in the next bit. That's great. But we still want to make sure we're at best positioned to deal with whatever the world throws at us. And that all requires building, growing, thinking of ourselves in a different way.
That's Corey Hogan. He's the Liberal candidate in Calgary Confederation. Super Chat Ken is in our Super Chat on YouTube right now, kicking in $5. You guys don't do the Super Chat on the Strategists.
We don't. None of our chats are super.
No,
our Discord is
I could have told you that. Yeah, we've cornered the market on it for now. But Ken, truly reaching across the aisle to the other pod, has kicked in $5 to pay for a beer or a soda for you, Corey. He says you're one of the most pragmatic people he's enjoyed listening to for years and wishes you the best of luck. You can pick up your cold beer or soda next time you visit our studio in Edmonton.
Right on. Looking forward to it.
Okay, Corey, thanks for doing this and best of luck.
Yeah, thank you.
You got it. Yeah, that's Corey Hogan. He's on leave as VP at the University of Calgary and an editorial board member for Real Talk and the new Liberal candidate in Calgary Confederation. He'll be running against Jeremy Nixon for the Conservative Party of Canada and Kira Gunn for the NDP. We'll get into more on Liberation Day, tariffs, this trade war with the United States coming right up with Nick Taylor-Vaisey from Politico. But first, I want to put this on your radar. It's April 2nd. This is the deadline, my friends, to get in for that early bird value with the Full House Lottery. We talked to Lindsay Robertson from the Royal Alexandra Hospital Foundation yesterday. That was our April 1st episode, kind of telling us where all the money's going and why this is so important and what a compelling case she made. But this early bird, the richest in the province, almost $1.7 million to win, 31 winners through the month. This is unbelievable. In May, they're giving away a car a day, 31 cars in 31 days. That's just the early bird prize. And then, of course, there's that $2.25 million legacy signature dream home. You can tour that on the website, fullhouse.ca. They throw in an Alfa Romeo and 20 grand cash as well. Grand Prize 2, Dream Vacations for Life. Grand Prize 3, that dream tiny home from our friends at Fritz Tiny Homes. I love that, or 200 grand cash. They've also got their 50-50 extra jackpot. Look at that. As I'm talking to you, it's almost at $1.3 million with the winner taking half. All of this in support of the University of Alberta and Royal Alexandra Hospitals. Friends, this is today, the deadline for that early bird. Get your tickets at fullhouse.ca. We're excited to let you know that the Real Talk Golf Classic will be going down at the Ranch Golf and Country Club on Thursday, the 19th of June. We trust the Ranch with our golf fundraiser every single year because, quite frankly, nobody does tournaments better than the Ranch. They're one of Alberta's premier public courses just on the outskirts of Edmonton. I tell everybody it's basically the first left turn after the Henday heading west. It's a fun, laid-back, and accommodating public course. True golfers love the gameplay there, and party animals love, well, everything about it. The Ranch hosts 120 tournaments a year. They have it dialed in. If you're in charge of the tournaments for your group, your organization, your community hall, whatever it is, get in touch with them today at theranchgolf.com. And our friends at Friesen Brothers letting you know that coming up April, well, this is like just the beginning of April. This is days away, the 5th and the 6th, their first ever Filipino feast. This is so cool. It's the first time they've ever done it. It's an all-you-can-eat Filipino feast prepared by Friesen Brothers Red Seal chefs at all of their Friesen Brothers. These are the locations, okay? The ones in Edmonton, Glenora, Rabbit Hill, Stony Plain, Hinton Hill, Peace River, Fort Sask, and Drumheller. Shout out to all of you. Relax and enjoy quality time with friends and family at your local Friesen Brothers Fresh Market. Authentic Filipino food, including the salad bar, for just $25 per person. Again, that's April 5th and 6th from 4 to 8 p.m. You can find out more details on their website. That's Friesen.com. We'll get to more on what Corey said. We'll get to more of your responses on that race down in Calgary. And we have a ton of stuff to get to. American senators speaking out, Republicans and Democrats, on a day where Canadians are bracing for a wave of tariffs. Donald Trump convinced this is the best way to get the American economy back on track. Not everybody agrees, to say the least. Nick Taylor-Vaisey is the Ottawa bureau chief for Politico. He's joining us every Wednesday through this federal election campaign. My man, where do we find you this morning? I think we got you on mute. We got to get that figured out real quick. It looks to me you're in your office. How are you?
Yeah, I'm back in Ottawa. No crappy hotels this week. This is sort of like recharge week before I actually come out to see you next week in Alberta.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that. What's the vibe in Ottawa today? It's a big day, obviously. People, regardless, I think, of what business they've been in or what business they're in, have had April 2nd circled.
Well, Ottawa's a funny place in a campaign because a lot of people leave Ottawa to go campaign elsewhere, and so you have the central campaigns who are here. And then you, of course, have, on days like today, you have the government come back to town. And Mark Carney is in prime minister mode today. He and his cabinet are here, or at least part of his cabinet, to respond to whatever comes of the tariffs in Washington. So it's a strange kind of climate in Ottawa now because it's not business as usual at all. And yet it's a really, really important day to be here.
How did you? So when we last spoke to you, you had been at the Polyev rally, Hamilton, right? And you had shown us some video from sort of behind the scenes, and we could see the rally. We were commenting on how, boy, did he ever have that crowd worked up, and how did that really fit into the bigger narrative, and really the assignment that Pierre Poilievre has to try to turn that polling around. And ultimately, I mean, if you're talking to Pierre today, I bet he's going to tell you that the only poll that matters is the one on April 28th. In your assessment, in your observation, what has developed, what has changed in the week since we last spoke?
Well, there's a couple of things going on here. And the first is, and the most important today, is that Poilievre delivered what he branded a keynote speech in Toronto. Us reporters were sort of like, what, a keynote for whom? Like where? And it was in a building in downtown Toronto. And this was his setup for the kind of countering before the tariffs come what Canada should do in response. This was his sort of, I think, attempt at prime ministerial statesmanship before the prime minister himself gets a chance to do it. And so that came after a week of some inner turmoil, reported inner turmoil within the conservative war room and among conservative pundits more generally about whether or not Poilievre was talking enough about Donald Trump. There's a whole strain of conservative thought now, especially younger conservatives, who say that Donald Trump is the concern largely of the boomer generation and older people who have time to think about and worry about Washington and not about their own lives. And so these younger folks are saying, listen, we're the generation that can't buy a house. We still have all the same complaints we had that when Justin Trudeau was in power. And now certainly Donald Trump complicates things, and tariffs are going to hurt the economy. But even if tariffs go away, we're not really much better off. And so Poilievre, in his speech today, tried to walk both those lines and talk sternly about President Trump and the plan that he has for, or would have, for renegotiating free trade, protecting Canadian sovereignty, and somehow mollifying the president, at least in such a way that he would no longer be a huge problem. But then also saying, but I'm not going to stop talking about that other stuff. And this is all reflected in the slogan that he's had this whole campaign, which is Canada first for a change. And the criticism of that slogan has been that that's two things at once. It's both trying to put Canada first and center sovereignty there, but also talk about this being a change election. And it's a tough needle for the guy to thread, and he gave it his level best today. It was not a rally. This was a speech in front of a quiet business crowd.
I want to let people know we've punched the link to Politico's Ottawa Playbook in our live chat right now. We'll put it in the show notes on YouTube and podcast so people can link to it directly and easily. But you touch on this basically right off the top in today's edition of the Ottawa Playbook. I'm just showing it right now, but people can read down and realize, I mean, this is something pretty interesting as well. Breaking versus broken. That Pierre Poilievre has stopped saying Canada is broken, instead shifting his focus to a lost liberal decade. This is just a matter of opinion. I'm asking for your opinion. Do you think that was a strategic comms play that may have been the plan the entire time? Is it a transition to more forward-thinking messaging, or do you think it's a response? I mean, is this Jenny Byrne and the team saying that Canada's broken narrative isn't working anymore? People are pulling out the Canadian flags again. People are proud and loud Canadians right now. They don't want to hear that this country they're so damn proud of is broken.
Yeah, I think there's probably at least an element of that. It's tough when you're saying that Canada is the greatest country on earth and we cannot let Donald Trump destroy us or make us the 51st state, to then also say, but man, are we ever broken? And so the lost liberal decade really fronts the Liberal Party there, as opposed to something more ephemeral, Canada feeling broken. It's the Liberals have made us weak. It's saying the same things, just using different words. I mean, he's still talking about how things feel broken. He's just not using that word anymore.
Nick, we got an interesting email. I was going to read it later in the show, but I'll read just a portion of it right now. This is from Blah Sheep, who's a relatively new Real Talk subscriber. He sent us like a 4-page essay, which is a good thing, not a bad thing, but I'm just going to pull from it. Blah Sheep, for context, originally from Ontario, then Quebec, 29 years of age, wrote in and said, I'm going to be voting for Pierre Poilievre, says, but that, to be honest, that could change in the blink of an eye. He says, obviously, Poilievre could do something in the next 30 days that makes me pull my vote away. He says, but I've noticed a lot of people seem to be voting for Mark Carney because of Donald Trump and just Donald Trump. But what about when the trade war ends? Why are we voting based on what another leader in another country is doing? We should be focused on Canada. I thought it was an interesting point, and I don't know that enough people are discussing this. Obviously, the relationship with the United States is a huge factor. Obviously, the president of the United States is typically the most powerful person on planet Earth. But what do you make of Blah Sheep's take on that?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. However, there's a big hole in it in the logic, or not the logic, but just the presumed conclusion, which is, what if the trade war doesn't end? I mean, that's the whole thing about Donald Trump is nobody knows what he's going to do next. And today, we may, as Canadians, get wonderful news because maybe there'll be an exception or a broad exemption or some kind of phase in that lessens the pain, at least in the short term, for Canadian exporters. But you never know what's going to happen next week or next month or next year or any time in the next 3 years or 4 or who knows, maybe more. And so that is, I think, what Mark Carney and the Liberals are banking on, is that people are going to keep carrying on this, or at least enough people in the right demographics, in the right regions, and in the right seats are going to prioritize Donald Trump and tariffs and sovereignty, or some sort of melding of all these issues as their top priority. So even if they're worried about the economy, like their kids might be, they're worried about it in concert with how Donald Trump can make it worse. And of course, if there is good news today economically, and it does seem to have some sort of longer lasting détente in this trade war, well, then I think your readers and your listeners got a pretty good point there, and that could come to define the second half of the campaign. It's just hard to predict.
Hey, talk to me about your door knocking experience. Not knocking yourself, but following a candidate in Milton, Ontario.
Yeah, Milton is interesting. It's now 2 ridings. 25 years ago, there were 30,000 people in that place, and now there are 150,000 people.
Wow.
They built a big pipe from Lake Ontario. So most of the place got off well water, and now they're on Great Lake water. So they were able to expand, and they continue to expand. And so we were in kind of the far southeastern corner of the new eastern riding, federal riding in this place. Relatively new community, new homes. But something that jumped out at me in this place that could go liberal, could go conservative. It's a lot of middle class families. I think it's exactly the sort of the swing voters that everybody wants. Is that whatever they say to a visiting liberal candidate or the visiting conservative candidate? I was not with a conservative. I was with Christina Tesser-Dirksen, who's the liberal. There are these visual clues as to how they feel about their lives, and Pierre Poilievre talks a lot about law and order and crime and rising crime and fear of more crime. And every house, I swear to God, except for like 3 or 4 on these 3 or 4 blocks that we traversed, had doorbells with cameras, which I know is technology that has existed. I don't happen to have one, but I know it's not uncommon. But it was ubiquitous, and you could see there were cars in the driveway, and the candidate would ring the doorbell, and you just knew somebody on the other side was looking through and decided, no, not for me. I'm not going to answer the door. Not because they feared her necessarily, but just because there is this new barrier between the resident and the people outside. And there were a couple of constituents who talked about crime as a concern, saying our neighbors, we all talk about this. We don't want our kids outside and unattended. And the crime rate in Milton is not stunningly high. It's a relatively safe place to live. But some of the sort of subsections of crime auto thefts and home invasions are up in recent years, and so it's warranted, and it's the kind of thing that not all of them mentioned when they talked to the Liberal candidate, but you could see clearly a concern. They've invested in the infrastructure that allows them to feel a little bit safer. I thought that was notable, and it's one of the best parts, I think, about walking around doors during a campaign is you get away from the 30,000-foot narrative, and you get to see where people live and how they live, and what their communities actually look like and feel like when you're walking around.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what your experience would be like. I was like when we don't call them this, Nick, but when outsiders come to Alberta, we don't call them that yet. We'll see how things go around here. The climate, as you know, is always typically a little hotter politically than in other parts of the country. But I'd be curious to know what you're expecting here. If you're talking to people, I mean, we'll talk about our orbit in downtown Edmonton. If you're talking to business owners, transit users, residents, you'll hear people talking about crime as well. I'd be curious to know if anyone feels like the federal parties, in particular the Conservatives, have seen, the tough on crime Conservatives, whether or not that messaging has landed or whether or not it's all but been overshadowed by the Trump stuff. What are you expecting in Alberta, and what's your plan when you're out here?
Man, it's crazy how many options there are for interesting places to be in this federal election. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but there are so many battlegrounds that I don't think we anticipated even 8 weeks ago. In both Calgary and Edmonton, it's kind of like throwing a dart at the wall and finding an interesting place to be. I'm hoping to walk around with some Conservatives and some Liberals and some New Democrats in suburban Calgary, suburban Edmonton, and the center of the city as well, of each city, and also just catch up with all the pundits out there, because the pundit class of Alberta is I think second to none in this country. Very interesting people, always voicey. I love it. But I am hoping to get a sense of how people at the door talk to a Liberal out there, and a Conservative, of course, but also a Liberal, compared to that conversation in the Greater Toronto Area and some of these Southwestern Ontario manufacturing communities where I think the ballot question is Trump more than anything else. How that compares, to out in Alberta, I can't wait. I wish I could be there for more than a week.
Yeah, well, we'll look forward to welcoming you to the studio next Wednesday. Part of me is like, I think that, we can give you all our suggestions. I'm going to write about a little bit of this in tomorrow's Ottawa Playbook in the April 3rd edition. People can check it out at politico.com and subscribe. But it's really interesting, some of the things that are happening. And then again, we've all been burned before. Pundits that have all these hot takes on how elections are going to go, and then it doesn't happen at all. Yeah. But like there are Conservative fortresses in like Southeast Calgary, Northwest Calgary, where people are starting in the donut around Edmonton, where people are starting to talk about like whispering. Like it's almost funny to watch people that are like, we know a bunch of people that are actually going to vote for the Liberals. And it's just, whether or not that actually happens remains to be seen. And then I wrote about this in last week's Playbook, my writing, where people are wondering, could the NDP candidate come up the middle? I have an interesting announcement. We've got a Real Talk guest and an audience member that are wagering $200 for charity on how that one's going to play out. So everybody's watching. We're looking forward to your visit next week, Nick. And of course, everybody can read your work at politico.com. I wanted to ask you about one thing before you go, and we're going to be talking about this after we hang up with you. A longtime journalist. She was my colleague at Global News for a while, Rachel Gilmore. A lot of people know her for her work on TikTok. CTV had brought her on for their election coverage as a fact checker right up until one of Pierre Poilievre's comms czars, a comms strategist for Poilievre, basically attacked the move on Twitter, calling out the trolls, and CTV cancels the segment. Everybody seems to have a take on this one. You're a journalist. What's yours?
Yeah, it's stunning, right? I mean, CTV has a complicated relationship with the Conservative Party, going back to the controversy last year that forced them to eat some crow, and they in fact actually dismissed journalists over the editing of a segment. It's uncomfortable. I was shocked that they would cancel that segment so quickly, and with so we've seen some of the communications between the network and Rachel, because Press Progress obtained them, I imagine, from Rachel, and it's an uncomfortable exchange where her point of contact there is saying, we like what you do. We knew that you faced criticism online. We did not anticipate it would be this, and this volume and this, I guess, just it's really hard, even a large mainstream news organization, to moderate or deal with the influx of commentary you get. But I see Rachel's side of this. They knew going in that Rachel Gilmore is somebody who has a large online audience and a lot of haters. They chose their side. It's just super uncomfortable.
It's super uncomfortable.
I wish they hadn't pulled the rug out so quickly. It's because she offers a valuable service.
Sure does. That's Nick Taylor-Vaisey. He's the Ottawa bureau chief at Politico. He and his team doing unbelievable work through this campaign. You can check it out at politico.com. Make sure you subscribe to their Ottawa Playbook. And Nick, 7 days from now, we will welcome you to the Real Talk studio as part of your Alberta tour. We very much look forward to that. We'll see you then.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nick.
You bet. Tomorrow morning in our playbook.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'll be contributing to the Ottawa Playbook again every Thursday. And here's the thing. You know, John, sometimes we've had this trend here on Real Talk. This is something that you and I have both very much enjoyed, having come out of careers in television and terrestrial radio where every segment is timed out to the second. And every once in a while when we've got more to talk about, I'm kind of getting a bit of that vibe this morning, although we'll try to be careful and respectful of everyone's time. Sometimes you got to go longer. Every once in a while, an episode of Real Talk will go an hour 45, 2 hours, especially during an election campaign. The team at Politico, very specific. They're like, give us 300 words. And I'm like, yeah, but I got like 3,000 words worth. You know, there's a lot happening around.
What happens if you go 301?
301. I think they'd be cool with 301. But you got to pick the stories that are the top stories.
Yeah.
And I think that some of the rumblings around how some votes may be changing in Alberta is worth the focus.
Yeah, sure.
Erica in our live chat, powered by Park Power. By the way, Real Talkers, you can get exclusive deals. They're the lowest rates you'll find in Alberta on internet, electricity, and natural gas. Go to parkpower.ca/Real Talk, and you can find those exclusive deals there. But Erica says, I bet you most have decided how they're going to vote in this election campaign. She says, believe it or not, I have not yet decided. Erica, I do believe it, and I bet you're not alone. It just feels different this time around. We get emails like this all the time. We get emails from people that are like, how many times have you heard it as audience members? You know, the preamble. I have voted conservative my entire life, but this time I'm not. Or I voted progressive so many times until I lost faith in the whatever, and now I'm voting here. Like, you hear people talk about how they've been hardwired a certain way, maybe partly how they were raised or where they grew up or what their friends did or how they voted or maybe the one ballot box issue that was important to them, right? Like lower taxes was always my thing, or social services was always my thing. So it prompted you to vote a certain way. It feels a little bit different this time. It feels like some people maybe, I don't know, foregoing or softening party loyalties, perceived or otherwise, to vote for what they think is best for their country right now. I'm getting that vibe.
That's what Jenny Adams said on our roundtable this week. You know, someone who's center right and would normally lean that way and vote that way. And she said, I'm thinking about my kids. And then secondly, I'm thinking about the country. And thirdly, I don't want Trump 2.0. And it was not wild, but it was interesting to see Jenny say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure
I think
was.
her thoughts are like a lot of people right now. And that's why we're seeing these numbers that, even though a lot of people are saying, oh, I don't believe polls, like this is pretty big. And again, go back to our roundtable, which was incredible this week.
It was really good.
KO saying,
Catherine O'Neill,
when is the last time you've seen a shift like this in such a short period of time? I don't think I've been alive to see it, Ryan.
Yeah, that's that. Well, and then they all reminisced. You can check this out here. It's the 31st of March. Our episode is Carney Peaking Too Soon. Can Polyev recover? And you've got Catherine O'Neill, former president of the PC Party of Alberta, Jenny Adams, longtime campaign strategist and messaging guru, Harman Candola, who's worked on a lot of campaigns and has been a conservative candidate in past, and Jarrett Campbell, longtime strategist as well. And they're kind of going around the table, and they say, KO says, in this moment, we pulled it for our clip, for our highlight, which you can find on our YouTube channel. She says, when's the last time you saw a polling turnaround like this? And then they all go, oh yeah, 2015, because they were all
because there was a time, yeah,
because they all got their asses handed to them. They were all
federal,
working. They were all working on the Prentice campaign.
Yeah.
And they said, and they go, oh my gosh, the 10-year the 10-year anniversary of us all losing is coming up. Something interesting came out of that segment, by the way. I mean, a lot of interesting things, but we got a message from Real Talker Michael, who wrote in. Michael, just a big supporter of the show. He said, I loved the group chat roundtable as always on March 31st. Said JC, Jarrett Campbell, and maybe even others in the group chat had a total misread. I love these fighting words from Michael. Had a total misread of the situation in Edmonton Centre, this riding. And don't worry, Real Talkers, I'm not going to talk about this riding all election long. It's just interesting. This is one where Randy Boissonneau's out, and they've got a new Liberal candidate who's not necessarily a huge name, and it feels like kind of a wide open race now. He says 100%, says Michael, the Conservative candidate wins there, Saeed Ahmed. He says Tricia Estabrooks, the NDP candidate, has name recognition and has a bit of a boost from that for sure. And then Eleanor Olszewski, the Liberal candidate, will ride the Carney wave. So sadly, Michael says they will split the center-left vote, and Ahmed will take it. And then I love he predicts. He says Ahmed will take it with 34% of the vote.
Wow, he gave a number.
Get this. So Michael says $200 to the charity of choice if JC wants to put some money down. Wow. So I reach out to Jarrett Campbell and I say, a Real Talker by the name of Michael wants to wager $200 on the outcome of Edmonton Centre, and he wants to do it for charity. And he says, okay, great. And JC says, I'm in. JC, of course, figures that the Liberals are going to take it with Eleanor Olszewski. JC has chosen UCAN Youth Services as his
amazing,
charity of choice,
yeah.
and Michael has chosen Edmonton's Food Bank as his charity of choice. So, Real Talkers, this is just a fun little side bet. I don't know that we want to necessarily turn into a betting house or like a wagering house. I think we'll get the AGLC on our backs. If
At least not on air. We keep that off air.
We can keep this. Maybe we develop like an app, or you can have like, is there like the dark web link off our website where you can go to our gambling?
We're getting into a whole bunch of legalities here.
Maybe you could like bet against our guests, or you could wager.
Sure.
Anyway, so 200. So we'll see on the outcome of Edmonton Centre. It'll either be Real Talker Michael earning 200 for Edmonton's Food Bank, or Jarrett Campbell if the Liberals win 200 toward UCAN Youth Services, which will be really super cool. Also wanted to mention I saw Cactus Sheriff in the live chat. Cactus Sheriff says, I've lived in the same spot for 15 years and says, I'm pretty sure I've never had a political candidate from any party knock on my door. I thought that was really interesting.
I've never had a knock on door either.
Never had a knock on door?
And
ever?
I've lived north side, I've lived downtown, and now I've been south side in 3 different locations over the last 7 years. So yeah, never had a knocker. And I mean, maybe I have. I just haven't been home or whatever, but never.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Have you?
Sylvie wonders, Real Talk, are you bookmaking? Are we bookmaking right now? Have I? I mean, I feel like I'm blown away to hear that. I'm blown away to hear Cactus hasn't. I'm blown away to hear you haven't.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, is it we live right off a main road? Is that why? I don't know.
Is it because we're in ridings that are already kind of
I'm not sure.
They're already kind of, the finals are, they're already kind of chosen? I'm not sure.
Pretty interesting to hear Nick's response, what he saw in Milton, Ontario, of people just not answering the door. I get it.
I would totally answer the door, whoever it is. Come on in.
I've had some
content.
My upbringing, my life experience has been interesting. I don't want to slag any particular faith group, but some of them have the reputations of going door to door. I'm looking at you, the LDS and Jehovah's Witness crews, and so there's folks that are either like, oh my gosh, when they see or hear that knock, they're not opening that door. They don't want to be they don't want to be proselytized to. And then there's others, like some of my friends, they love it. Like they want to debate theology. They want to have they love it when religious folks knock on their doors. Then there's the door-to-door salespeople. I have been one. I know what that's like. Thank God I was selling educational books door-to-door before Ring cameras. And so some folks would just open the door in good faith, and then your job was in the next 5 seconds to convince them to keep the door open and buy books. But I know a lot of people want nothing to do with solicitation. You got the more kind of a thing. I'd be curious to know how it translates. So we've talked about religion and sales. What about politics? Like, do most people welcome the opportunity to hear from a candidate or from their team? Yeah. Do they want to pick their brain? Do they have something they've always wanted to say to a politician? Do they have that one question, Real Talkers? Or would you rather just ignore the knock, put the drapes up and just kind of keep it quiet in the house?
I wonder what the goal is also, especially these days when the reach is so much more vast online and social media. And I get that, like, you want to interact with the public, but the amount of time it takes. I mean, Cummings was on our show, and he mentioned, I think, after online about going door to door, and then somebody had commented, like, how many doors do you get to over, a span of a campaign? And, like, if you're walking or if you're driving, I mean, the most you can hit, he said, was around 200. So, I mean, that kind of reach to me just doesn't, I don't see what the overall impact would be. I get that you may sway a few people. I think the majority of people were probably already set in their vote. So these days, I don't know that door knocking really does that much. Do you?
Well, I mean, I'm going to hand this over to Real Talkers right now in the live chat, powered by Park Power, because I'm curious to know where you guys are landing on this. Les says door knocking is a thing of the past. Says social media and podcasts are the new future. How about this one from Dubious? Says he says door knocking, walking around knocking on doors, is hilariously outdated. You might as well send out faxes. I don't. You know who's
but also danger.
You know who's
like, say you knock on the door of someone who vehemently, like someone who does not agree with your party or you as like I would be concerned about my safety from either side of the aisle, going to a door, of someone who is angered with all the divisiveness going on everywhere in the country, the state, the province, or the state's the province now. Like, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think of the safety thing.
If they just opened the door and were like,
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure that does happen. You wouldn't find typically people door knocking on their own. But that's a good point. Who's the most ardent and diligent and enthusiastic door knocker that I've ever met in my entire life? Andrew Knack.
Really?
Like, when I talk about like fantasy hockey pools, that's how Andrew Knack talks about knocking on doors. The guy loves it. If the guy has spare time, he goes and knocks on doors. That's my worst nightmare. If I was a politician, which I wouldn't be, that to me is like knocking on doors and fundraising. I'm like, ugh,
the worst.
It's the worst.
The worst.
So yeah, I don't know. But I think that it is a way to connect with people. James says politicians and volunteers' time is valuable. If you don't want to talk to them, they don't want to talk to you. Say no, and they will be gone. 80s Fanify says that you're describing us. Says the husband loves to chat, but I avoid them, especially when I know they're targeting us because of our language. I wonder what that means. Ms. KD says that her NDP MLA knocked on the door, said that was the one that beat Jeremy Nixon, who we were just talking about earlier with Corey. Says we had a great chat. Noob, by the way, try again. Is wondering when we're getting the Edmonton Centre candidate. It all comes back to Edmonton Centre. I will say this, a brief update. We don't typically want to update you guys. I know a lot of you are asking, are you going to get Rachel Gilmore on the show? Wheels are in motion. Edmonton Centre candidates. We typically, producers don't want to talk about what they're working on until we just want to deliver it. But unless we can get all three candidates on, we're not going to do it. We want to be fair there. But we're working on it. I think it'll be an interesting one. I also wanted to welcome to the fold, John, a couple of new YouTube members. And I saw those names, which was pretty awesome to see.
Mike and Matthew.
A big shout out to Mike and Matthew, who both signed up as Real Talkers. You can learn more about our YouTube channel memberships. The show will always be free, but if you want to show some support and get some cool side perks, you can sign up to become a YouTube member. We're going to hear from Rachel Gilmore. She has recorded her call with the CTV morning producer and posted it. Press Progress is reporting on this. We're going to bring you some of that audio. I have heard a conversation. I've been a part of a conversation like this before, but it's very unusual. It's very unfortunate. I'm curious to know where Real Talkers will land on it. Plus, of course, this is a big day, not just stateside, not just in the United States, but quite frankly around the world, and particularly in Canada. We've been talking for a long time about what April 2nd would look like as Donald Trump rolls out his White House rolls out its next round of tariffs. And of course, on Liberation Day, American senators, in a really remarkable move, Democrats and Republicans united in their messaging calling for Trump to pause those tariffs. So we'll get to more on that in just a moment. Right now, I want to remind you about the incredible things that are happening in the beautiful mountain town of Jasper. Once a week, courtesy of our friends at Tourism Jasper, Real Talk proudly presents MyJasper Memories. And as we get into spring, I mean, I say that with a little hesitation in my voice because I know we're still seeing big dumps of snow, which is never a bad thing if you're looking to get in some skiing and some snowboarding. But spring in Jasper National Park, there's really nothing quite like it. And they've got their new Taste of Spring event set to kick off April 25th through May 4th, and now's a perfect time to check it out online and to start to put your plan together. Now, they've got a whole bunch of events going down, and you can read about all of it at jasper.travel. We'll link to it specifically in the show notes. A lineup of events designed to captivate and inspire. So whether you're looking for activities and adventure, maybe it's the culinary scene in Jasper that you'd love to explore, or of course the arts and entertainment, opportunities abound at the Taste of Spring. I want to talk to you about a couple in particular, John. Anytime I see the words burger, SmackDown combined,
Me too.
I'm in. And coming up in Jasper from the 25th of April to the 4th of May. So for a limited time, the Burger Smackdown brings together local restaurants, and boy, do they have an incredible lineup of local restaurants in a friendly competition to craft the most mouth-watering, over-the-top burgers, and every bite will support a great cause with $1 from every burger sold going to the Jasper Food Bank. I love that. So you can feel
awesome.
good about having, here's the thing. I'm just going to give you a little pro tip. You can go have a burger lunch, get a sense of what it's going to be like. Test out, restaurant number one, okay? $1 to the food bank. Let's say around 3:30. You've been walking around the town. Maybe you've gone for a short little hike. Burger number 2 around 3:30.
Burger.
And then maybe a later dinner, like around 8:30. There is a way, my friends, to support the Jasper Food Bank 3 different times every day you're out there. I'm giving you sort of some behind the scenes into how my brain works. And then they've got this Beast Whisky weekend happening as well. This is the weekend of April 25th through the 27th. This is way more than just a whiskey event. Our friends at the Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge are hosting this one, but this is an experience reserved for those who demand the best. Whether you're a seasoned collector or an avid enthusiast, this weekend promises to be an unforgettable escape into the world of exceptional whiskey and fine dining at the JPL. It's a carefully curated 2-day event, an immersive experience for true whiskey connoisseurs, offering an unparalleled opportunity to savor some of the world's finest whiskeys, including the Beast Wildfire Whiskey. And John's been showing you that bottle. This is bottled by the Moline Distillery in Jasper. This is a stunning new distillery. This was born in the raging blaze of the Fort McMurray wildfire. The whiskey has a phenomenal story behind it. It has a tie to Fort McMurray. And of course, having been distilled in Jasper, it also has a tie-in to that Jasper wildfire from back in July. You can learn more about the Beast Wildfire Whiskey and the whiskey world in general at this wonderful weekend. And of course, you can find out all the details and more on skiing and snowboarding, Marmot Basin, the hoteliers, the operators that are ready to welcome you back to Jasper with open arms by checking out jasper.travel. There's no season quite like spring in Jasper National Park. Go make your own MyJasper Memories. This segment proudly presented by our wonderful friends at Tourism Jasper. On door knocking, Jeremy Farkas, he's going to be knocking on doors, wants to be the mayor of Calgary. He's watching the show right now live, says, depending on the style of door knockers, I would ask what's going on in the neighborhood, and people are typically happy to share. He says it's different if you're going in with a hard sell. That's an interesting point as well. If you're knocking on the door to try to pound home your political message, you may find folks less receptive than if you say or ask a simple question, hey, what do you care about right now?
Yeah.
Hey, what do you want out of this election?
And those are the two things. You would think, A, they're gonna repeat their platform to you and drive it home, or B, they're gonna ask you questions. But I just don't see. Maybe I see like if you're getting like viz of you out there and talking that you're going to use maybe later. But even then, you can't use people's faces without their permission. Then you're going to ask everyone. Like, you don't see a lot of viz of people, politicians talking at doors to people. You see them walking and knocking on the door or whatever. But yeah, I just think the reach online and everything is so much more. But I mean, our one guest Cummings, who was on here, he staunchly believes in it. He believes that everyone should do it. You should hit at least 100, 150, 200 doors, which, seems like a lot. And the time and the amount of time it takes is just long. But I guess people still do it. And I don't know, Real Talkers, tell us, does it impact you? Could it sway your vote?
Lorne says he thinks municipal door knocking, in other words, door knocking ahead of a municipal election, is more receptive. People are more receptive.
Sure, right in the riding.
The community aspect, right? It's not so much of a partisan thing, although this year it will be in a way. Jimmy says door knockers are saints. You couldn't pay me to do that. Me neither, bud. It's just not my thing. And then S. Scott K. has an interesting point, and I think it's an interesting point. Like, he says, Johnny is highlighting, when you talked about the safety thing, he says Johnny is highlighting the fact that we no longer have a trust-based society. We used to have block parents. Scott says, indeed, it feels broken.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, that's a fair point. I don't know. I mean, we did used to have a trust-based society. Maybe we still do. You could make that argument. I think that some of the institutions have lost trust because of revelations. I mean, I think the obvious one is like the Catholic Church. I think of the story down in the United States around the American gymnastics program. I think Graham James and the hockey scandal, sexual assault, Theo Fleury, Sheldon Kennedy, and everybody else. Yeah. These are just like examples off the top of my head. There's many, many more. Maybe as we understand more, what do they say? When you know better, you do better. But they must still have block parents? Do they have block parents?
Well,
remember that? Did you guys have
commented-
that when you grew up?
Yeah, of
Remember
course.
the odd house would have like the block parent, and that family.
I grew up in a small town in Ontario, just outside of Toronto, and I believe like every 10 minutes you would walk into a new, area, a new subdivision. There was always a block parent sign, bright on someone's front lawn. I mean, I never used one personally, but you felt safer knowing they were there. I'd also I'd love to see some numbers. Maybe I can dig them up on polling or just showing let's say you hit 150 doors in a riding, whatever, and that maybe have people gone back and said, hey, did us coming to see you sway your vote? Did it get you to go out and talk to other people to get them to vote for us? Did it have any impact at all? I'd love to see those numbers.
Tracy asking a very important question. Isn't the whole point of being a politician that you're working for the people? Don't you need to talk to people to find out what concerns people? In theory, yeah. And if you're truly working for the people,
I guess that would be,
I
guess that would be one of the impacts is you would actually hear from people. But again, I mean, with stuff online, you can ask a question and get your answers right away in 10x probably that you could go in door to door, 150, 200 people. But
Ben
it sounds like I'm ragging on this, but I'm not.
No, I don't think so. You're shooting straight.
I'm asking questions.
Ben Demon Hunter. Who I happen to know is a big whiskey lover. Ben, you headed out to the whiskey weekend in Jasper or what? He says, we used to be a higher trust society, and we've been sliding down to less and less trusting in my lifetime over the last 30 years. I agree. I've noticed the same thing. But it's also wild to think of what we used to be able to do. I mean, listen, I was raised by incredibly diligent, wonderful parents. They would have had no way of knowing this, but I've shared this story before. You guys can Google this name I'm about to tell you. This is a wild story, but we grew up in this wonderful house that backed in South Calgary onto Fish Creek Park. Okay, this wonderful provincial park. It's still obviously there. It's one of the crown jewels in Calgary. And of course, because we're children of the 80s, this is how you rolled. It was like mom and dad will see you, see you whenever. We'll see you when you see you. Yeah. And then we would go down on these wonderful adventures, right? And we'd ride our bikes down into Fish Creek Park. And I remember running up and down the hills. And I have memories of picking Saskatoon berries with my dad. Yeah. It's where he taught me a principle that I thought was just about dessert until I realized it was a life principle. And my dad was a sage. He said to me once when I was complaining about picking Saskatoons, he said, son, if you don't pick the berries, you don't eat the pie. And he taught me that life principle when I was like 8 years old. But here's the point. We were allowed to go down into Fish Creek Park because every single kid in that era was allowed to go wherever they wanted to during the day, ride bikes and go to their friends' houses. And then there was a fellow by the name of Charles Ng, N-G, the last name, Charles Ng, who had been a member of the U.S. military, had fled to Canada, and ultimately was extradited to the States. He was arrested while trying to shoplift. A serial killer that had basically set up a lean-to and was living in Fish Creek Park, not far from our house, until he was arrested and extradited to the United States. You can read the story of Charles Ng and his discovery. And that, to me, when I look back on my childhood and that moment where you grow up a little bit, nothing ever happened. We never saw him. There was nothing, in respect to the victims, I don't mean nothing bad happened. Obviously, horrible things happened, but not to us as kids. But you got these chills, as a 10-year-old or 11 or however old we were, to realize that we may very well have ridden our bikes past a serial killer hiding in the provincial park. Now, can you imagine these days? I mean, parents have air tags in their kids' school bags. Mm-hmm. Kids have watches and phones. Mm-hmm. Someone made the good point in our live chat. Everybody's got cameras everywhere.
And all that stuff's great.
It is.
Yeah. But I was going to say, with that comment in the live chat, I don't think it's that society is super dangerous now, but when you go online, Ryan, and you see some of your friends on Facebook and the things they're posting on X and Instagram or whatever with their staunch political views and being against certain groups of people, how can you not be a little, hesitant to go hang out with these people? And also, I'm just thinking as a politician, seeing all the divisiveness online and then, tying up your shoelaces and going door to door, I would never do that.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's get to this Rachel Gilmore story, and then
we
bring
got tons
it back.
of videos.
I mean,
today.
today's top story is what's happening, obviously, out of the United States and the tariffs and what it's going to do to the Canadian economy. We'll have fulsome coverage on it in the next episode when we know more about it. That'll be on April 3rd. But here's another story. I don't want to say it's flying under the radar because it's certainly not. But typically, journalists come and go, election coverage changes. But this one just feels different. You've heard Rachel Gilmore on this program before. If you're of a certain vintage, you're probably familiar with her reporting on global news. Back in the day, ultimately she was let go from Global. Members of the media are let go for different reasons. It's hard to know if she was let go because of her work covering right-wing extremism in Canada, but certainly I would imagine that the pressure and the pressure cooker that she operates in maybe had something to do with Global cutting ties. So what an opportunity for Rachel when one of the other big outlets in Canada, CTV, brings her on as their election fact checker. And as you can read at pressprogress.ca, they've got the reporting here. Luc Lebrun, the editor, has done a wonderful job with the story. Rachel, after a single segment, as a matter of fact, John, after the announcement that she was going to be doing the fact checking for CTV, already had a bunch of attention on her. And in particular, from one of Pierre Poilievre's communications operatives. This is a fellow by the name of Sebastian Skamsky. Bit of an unfortunate surname, but I digress. So Skamsky tweets in a shocking new low for CTV News, and he ats them in it, so they're going to see all the replies. He says they're having this disgraced disinformation peddler lie directly to their viewers under the guise of news. Says the liberal media will do anything to ensure a fourth liberal term. Remember that the next time they fact check conservatives. So this, of course, stirs people up in a big way. I mean, his tweet has more than 400,000 views, and CTV divulges to Rachel Gilmore in a phone call that she recorded that because of this pressure, because of this heat, because of her haters, they're canceling the fact check segment. We're not going to play the whole call. It's about 7 minutes, but here's a portion of it. This is Rachel Gilmore in conversation with CTV producer Jennifer McLean.
You know what, Rachel, I can't even imagine. I've followed you for a long time. I'm well aware of the trolls that you deal with, and, it is really shocking and disappointing.
Thanks for saying that.
This time.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I knew that you had that troll base, and I knew that we would get, some sort of reaction, but I really did not realize the extent of the volume of that pushback that we've had.
Yeah. Well, it's a whole model at this point. Like, they've developed a playbook to try to deprive people like me of opportunities, and they're very good at it. So
they are. And the tricky thing for me is it just ends up being a distraction of what we are trying to do. My goal as the EP for the show is I just want to do election coverage.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a critical election for Canadians. We've got Trump, we've got tariffs, we've got crazy amounts of information coming in, and we just want to be able to get that to people. But who we're talking to is kind of drowning out what we're talking about right now. And I don't feel like we have the bandwidth to deal with it. So I feel terrible about doing this, but I'm just going to call down the segment that we were planning to do with you because I just don't think we have the bandwidth to be able to keep the focus where we need to.
So there you have it. We're going to call down the segment. We underestimated your trolls, and so the fact-checking segment is gone. We are scared, and we don't want to deal with this. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So now, it's one thing, I guess, when it's like the trolls, and interesting to hear a producer say we kind of underestimated your trolls. I don't know this producer, and I'm not talking shit about them directly. I would imagine this was a team decision, but if you were unaware of the attention and the heat that Rachel Gilmore faces, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, she's basically she won a national media award with Erica Eiffel. I remember for her. I'm using the word, but for her gutsy and fearless coverage of some of these polarizing stories. When you're getting in to the mud and reporting on incels and extremists, Yeah, you're going to bring a little heat. Yeah, you're going to have your online trolls. So I don't know what CTV was expecting, but to see CTV bend on this and cancel the segment, and Rachel's response to it all, which is basically she's indicated her disappointment. We hope to speak with her one-on-one, but you can find the post that she's put out on her TikTok and other platforms. It just, to me, I will say I'm not surprised. This is, it's just a type of situation, I think, where people realize some of the things that happen behind the scenes, the power that politicians wield, and ultimately the masters that mainstream media serves. And I'm not trying to bring this back to me,
but I'm not
trying to draw attention to me. But I will say, based on personal experience, having been fired from a terrestrial radio job for locking horns with a conservative premier and having his operatives work with the media company and pressure the board of the media company to fire the host of their flagship talk show, I have experience and understanding in how politicians and their operatives can influence editorial decisions. And it does happen in Canada, and people are fooling themselves if they think it doesn't.
100%. And this is great to bring up because this shows, because you have a lot of conservative voices and people on the right saying they're being silenced. Well, here's an incident right here where someone left-leaning, someone who's very outspoken, was denied coverage on a prominent, media corporation's, channel. And it's... the other thing is, like, what was she going to say that was going to cause them? Like, CTV already, go to their post before Facebook took news outlets down, or on X or whatever. You're already getting flack from trolls. Was this going to be like, I know Rachel, her segments often draw the eyes of people who come and try to attack her, but was this going to be like 10X or 100X of the trolls? I don't think so. So to me, what you just said there is what I immediately thought in the back of my mind. Somebody sent an email. Somebody sent a text. Somebody tapped someone on the shoulder and said no.
Mm-hmm. You can let us know what you think about this to talk at ryanjesperson.com. We had reached out to Rachel, just curious to talk to her through this election anyway. This was before this news broke, and my guess was that was part of the deal, that she would be exclusive to CTV. She's obviously now a free agent. So we'll see, what happens there and what materializes. That'll be that's a tough pill to swallow. If you're a professional, and you've seen, like in her case, I'm not speaking for Rachel at all, obviously, but her professional career, based on the trenches that she's operated in, she has paid a price in the context of the opportunities that she's had or not had, and yet she's stuck with it. And so I would imagine that this one probably is a tough pill to swallow for her. Mm-hmm. If you want to support Rachel, there is she has a project that she's relatively recently launched, and this is her Substack, and you can find it. It's called Bubble Pop. That's at rachelgilmore.substack.com, and you can hear from her in her own words. She quotes the headline, CTV canceled a fact-checking segment in response to political pressure from Pierre Poilievre's communications team. She says, it's me. I was the fact-checking segment. Again, that's rachelgilmore.substack.com. It's Liberation Day in the United States. It's going to impact every single Canadian, whether you like it or not, whether you realize it or not. But here's the thing. It's going to impact Americans as well. We're going to have more on that in just a second. I want to show you what some American senators are saying, in particular the Republicans. That's the one I'm keeping an eye on. But first, I wanted to put something cool on your radar. On March 21st, we talked to Tara Langen. Tara is she's partnering with Athabasca University on this Neurodiversity at Work program. This is a quick course that you can take through Athabasca University that helps employers. Well, I mean, it's basically kind of designed for everybody. I mean, if you're in the workforce, but in particular, if you're an employer and you want to better understand where millennials and Gen Z are at, you want to better understand neurodivergence, neurodiversity, and how it's going to impact not just your recruiting efforts, but your retention efforts and how workplaces are operating. Really, really valuable insights and interesting information. I learned like 100 things from Tara. That was our March 21st episode. But we got an email from AJ, and I wanted to read this. I absolutely love it. AJ says, I was listening to your March 21st episode as I was walking the dog. Shout out to everybody listening to Real Talk, walking your dogs. Says, I loved what Tara Langen had to say about neurodiversity. Over the last 5 or 6 years, AJ says, my daughter, now 16, taught me a lot about trying to understand and live with somebody with ADHD. And I was able to extend that a little to how I show up for the team that I lead at work. After listening to Tara on Real Talk, it got me thinking more and more, and as soon as I got back home, I signed up for her course through Athabasca U. AJ says I did most of it that weekend. I finished up the final module on Sunday. I took a lot more from this that can be super easy to implement. It's great content, and anybody that's not sure how they can support neurodivergent staff or welcome them into their business, this is a worthwhile investment of about $550. That from AJ, who wrote in to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Music to our ears, AJ. Thanks very much. And we just wanted to make sure everybody knew about this. That course, again, Neurodiversity at Work, and you can check it out at athabascau.ca, Canada's open university with a myriad of online degrees and courses, all of them world-class and accredited, designed so you can complete your education wherever and whenever it works for you. AJ, thank you so much for that email. We also wanted to make sure that California Closets is on your radar. If this spring means spring cleaning for you, decluttering, and finally getting organized, California Closets does it better than anybody else in the business. The best part about it, you're supporting a locally owned business, Canadian owned and operated, right here in Alberta, custom closets and storage solutions for the entire home. You know that every installation that California Closets puts out there is manufactured right here in Alberta. How cool is that? With their team of designers and installers, top shelf teamwork, all of it guaranteed for life. Every California Closets installation starts with a free consultation. You can check in with their design team, talk budget, talk about your top priorities, and they'll custom design it for you and only you. A lifetime guarantee. It all starts with a free consultation at californiaclosets.ca. Hey, if you're under or unemployed and looking for a wonderful new opportunity, the team at Solar by Kubi is hiring right now. Check out their website at kubi.ca. That's where you can find the careers link. Kubi is hiring for locations in Lethbridge, Calgary, Edmonton, and Kamloops, BC, including design engineers, salespeople, installers, the fastest growing solar installer in Western Canada. That's Kubi. Celebrating 10 years this year. Congratulations to the team at Kubi. They're marking that by giving away $10,000 to 2 lucky Kubi customers. That's right, 2 Kubi customers. Names will be drawn on the 20th of June at their summer solstice party. Each of them is going to get $5,000 off their solar installation. You can learn more on their website. That's kubi.ca. And our friends at Complete Care Restoration, quite frankly, hope you never have to call them. That's right, they hope they never hear from you. But if you experience a sewer backup, smoke damage, fire, flood, you name it, black mold, asbestos, they've seen it all, and they restore property and rebuild peace of mind. They've been doing it for more than 25 years. Still a family-owned business, ready to respond 24/7. They'll work directly with your insurance company so you don't have to manage that headache. If disaster strikes, remember the name Complete Care Restoration at completecarerestoration.ca. How about this? In the United States, Republican senators joining forces with Democrats. How often do you see that? Not often. But on Liberation Day, the 2nd of April, Donald Trump's making a big deal about this. The plan is that Canada and other partners will face a wave of tariffs. We can expect Canada to retaliate, and we know that all this will do is deepen a trade war. Now, Donald Trump is trying to sell the American public on the idea that this is the short-term pain for long-term gain as he works to make America great again. And he's getting some support from members of the media as well. How about this? This is gaslighting 101. Fox News carrying water for 47. How about this comment from Harris Faulkner, who had a message in particular for Fox's senior viewers, including those on fixed incomes. You won't believe this.
And those 401k people who were depending, those retirees, all of that, just talking plain speak with them. look, when this nation used to go to war, people in this country would support the war effort with their materials at home and making things for weaponry and all of that. We got to do 100% buy-in over this bumpy period. Just communicate.
Taylor.
All right. So for the 401k people and the retirees, remember when you all served? Remember when you all went and showed up for World War II? Remember when everybody? What are you complaining about? You got to get on board. So that's the messaging from Fox News, but that's not the messaging from American senators. Now, obviously, Democrats are going to oppose what Donald Trump's doing. That's kind of inherent. That's kind of obvious. But what about Republicans? Senator Thom Tillis, representing North Carolina, had pretty plain speak for folks that figure this is just a short-term cycle. He's standing up for the American agriculture sector. Check this out.
Anyone who says there may be a little bit of pain before we get things right need to talk about farmers who are one crop away from bankruptcy. They don't have time, so we've got to be crisp on this implementation. Otherwise, we could do damage that's irreparable to farmers.
Okay, damage that'll be irreparable to farmers in the United States. That interview courtesy of CNN with Republican Senator Thom Tillis. The chorus loudens as Senator Amy Klobuchar, a Democrat out of Minnesota, spoke to reporters about, well, basically the exact same things. Here's what she had to say.
So I'm proud to be one of the original sponsors of this very important resolution. I love that we're picking up support. Tariffs as a whole, you literally read the words of Mitch McConnell and you read the words of Chuck Schumer when it comes to tariffs. They're nearly identical. That is unique. You look at the fact that the Chamber of Commerce has been out opposing the tariffs as a whole. I'm not talking about specific measures, but the tariffs as a whole, that the steelworkers have been out there, that the home builders have been out there because of the cost of lumber. This is across the board, across the country, a national sales tax on Americans. And this is the moment to take a stand and stand our ground with the power of Congress.
So that's Amy Klobuchar, a Democratic senator, talking tariffs. I see Jillian in our live chat right now says, I need to buy a second vehicle right now. These tariffs could not have come at a worse time. Last night is wondering, why would Canada retaliate? This just taxes us. And I know that a lot of folks are going to be wondering right now, what's the best way for Canada to respond to this? Now, you know how the polling's going on this. The more economic pain that Americans feel, the worse that Donald Trump's approval rating will look. So how long can Trump afford to double down on this strategy? Now, prominent American politicians are trying to find the best way to get the message through. And Senator Cory Booker out of New Jersey did something remarkable. As a matter of fact, taking to the Senate floor, he set a record for the longest filibuster in American history, John, which we will play now in its entirety. 25 hours and 5 minutes. No, okay. But maybe just a little bit from it. Can you believe this? He said at the
I was
outset
listening
of this
to the
speech,
highlights yesterday.
well, and
It's
people were dropping in and dropping out of it because he went for more than a day.
Yeah.
And you don't yield the floor. He said, I'm going to go on for as long as I am physically able to do it. Just basically calling out the Trump administration for lawlessness and undermining American values, and in the process breaking the record for the longest Senate speech ever. I wanted to play you a portion of it, a portion I thought was pretty significant. There's a lot to choose from over 25 hours, but here's Senator Cory Booker.
He promised to lower your grocery prices, they're higher. He promised, I'll be a better steward of the economy. It's worse than we inherited. Over and over, he's breaking promises and doing outrageous things like disappearing people off of American streets, violating fundamental principles of this document, invoking the Alien Enemies Act from the 1700s that was last used to put Japanese Americans in internment camps? Do we see what's happening? How much is enough?
So that's Senator Cory Booker. And again, you can see that consistency in the messaging. They're talking to average Americans about their bottom lines, about grocery prices. Now, I know that supporters of Donald Trump, apologists for this type of policy or this type of approach will say this type of thing takes time. We heard that messaging on Fox. We heard that theme. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a while to make America great again. But as the Republican Senator Tom Tillis said, some farmers one crop away for bankruptcy. You were talking the other day, John, about when people are desperate, they'll resort to desperate measures. And for a lot of people that have put their faith, I mean, Donald Trump received more than 70 million votes. For a lot of people that put their faith in that option on the ballot, on that option on the ticket, it was because they believed that he could pull them out of financial hardship. If, in fact, his policies make it worse, if it exacerbates the problem, then you could see a real issue.
Sure.
Midterms aren't actually that far away in the bigger context of how politics work.
Yeah, and the other... And I don't want to be too down on this because I do realize it's still early. He's only been back in the White House a few months. But, what they didn't say was, hey, we're going to improve things, but right away things are going to get really fucking bad. Because this is like the markets, the cost of everything Booker was talking about, and he can be a bit out there. He can be a bit emotional, and obviously when you're standing on your feet for 24 hours too, you can get a little.
Do you think he had?
Do you start hallucinating or whatever? But the main gist of what he was saying is that things haven't improved even an inkling. In fact, the relationships with other countries have gotten horrible. All these things, but I still am of the thinking that I don't think you can judge a presidency 3 months in.
No.
But at the same time, this is not good.
No, it's not good. So we'll wait to see. Obviously, our next episode of the show will have more on this as we know more details. But we want to know what you think about this. To talk at RyanJesperson.com. If you're listening to this later in the day, while you're walking your dog, while you're on transit, while you're doing the dishes, that's when I listen to my podcast. You can let us know what you think to talk at RyanJesperson.com. Horse Lake Ranch is in our live chat. Says we saw this coming a long time ago. Everybody knew that this was going to happen. This is a surprise to nobody, including Donald Trump's team.
Well, economists told us the whole time this is going to be bad. The stock market is going to go down, prices are going to go up, and that's exactly what happened. So I guess they were right.
Yeah, I guess so. We want to talk to you about something else that we've got cooking right now. But before we do, if you don't have, you know what we'll do, John? If you could just give me some beautiful opera music. I know that we're seeing on our new Real Talk community chat on the Discord, everybody's trying to get opera music kicking off every show. It's not going to happen. But courtesy of our friends at Edmonton Opera, we do every once in a while get to integrate a little class. Hey, a little touch of class.
Class it up a bit.
Into our production here as we tell you about Edmonton Opera's 2025-26 season. Some legacies are passed down, others must be claimed, and this season is a celebration of legacy. You can find out all the details by visiting their website, edmontonopera.com. The season kicks off October 9th and 11th with Bravi. This is opera's greatest hits. Now, I know it feels like that's a ways away, but this is bound to sell out, so you're going to want to get your tickets today. This is a partnership with the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra taking place at the Winspear Center, staged by the Edmonton Opera's very own artistic director, Joel Ivany. Now, in February, audiences will witness the world premiere of Indians on Vacation, a poignant and comedic new opera based on Thomas King's novel of the same name. This goes at the Northern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium. Absolutely love productions there. The first week of February, and the season will conclude with the third chapter of Wagner's legendary ring cycle, Siegfried, Fate Forged in Fire. We'll learn this by following Siegfried as he discovers his true heritage, forges a mighty sword, and awakens the sleeping Valkyrie. This is an epic tale of heroism and fate performed at the McLab Theatre at the Citadel on May 25th, 27th, 29th, and 31st of next year. The Jonathan Dove arrangement. You can get your tickets, subscribe to the Edmonton Opera by visiting their website, edmontonopera.com. Now, everybody will be talking bottom line today. People are going to be watching the markets maybe more closely than ever before. And the team at North Road Investment Council wants to remind you they are a steady hand and a studied voice to guide you through wealth and investing. The North Road Investment Council knows that successful saving can create unexpected challenges, and that's where their financial advisors, the most respected in the business, come in. You can learn more about what makes them different in investment counsel, financial planning, and insurance on their website. I want to highlight their digital risk advisory services. No other firm in the space in the province of Alberta has a dedicated team member specifically focusing on digital risk advice within the wealth management industry. They advise clients on ways to help them make better and safer choices in their digitally connected life. You can start by seeing how you score when it comes to digital risk by taking their digital risk quiz without charge on their website. Of course, that's also a great place to connect with Marshall, Carey, and the team. That's North Road Investment Counsel at northroadic.com. A big shout out to our friends at UCAN Youth Services. We're so proud to be partnering with this team to support the work that they're doing. I've been talking to you about their relentless outreach workers and what they're doing with 12 to 17-year-olds in the greater Edmonton area, but I want to shine a light on their Verto project today. Verto is Latin for turnaround or change. This is a 20-week pre-employment program that helps young adults between 18 and 24 transition out of harm's way and back into school or into the workforce. John, I had a chance to drop in and see the team at UCAN Youth Services a couple of weeks ago, and that Verto project was underway. So they had a class of young adults in there and basically just learning life skills, putting resumes together, understanding how to best prepare yourself for the job market. And they've got these posters up all around the room, and every time somebody goes for a job interview, they mark it on the board. And then when they get a job, well, then everybody celebrates as they ring that bell. I'm looking forward to hearing that bell ring more and more as this Verto project grows. If you're an employer we're in charge of bringing on, of onboarding, of recruiting entry-level employees, there could be a wonderful opportunity here for you to partner with UCAN Youth Services. They're doing it with big brands like Old Navy and IKEA. And they're also always accepting applications. If you know a young adult that's been experiencing challenges entering the workforce, do everything you can to recommend UCAN Youth Services Verto project. You can learn more at ucan.ca. And a quick shout out to the friends at Innovative Canadians for Change. I'm really excited to work with them on Clear Waters, Clear Futures. This is their 6th annual IC Change Gala. It goes in Edmonton, the Convention Center, on Saturday, April 12th. You can get your tickets at ichange.ca. That's the letter I, the letter C, change.ca. This is a group formed in Edmonton about 15 years ago. You can read about the work that they're doing in their innovation lab, their initiative portfolio, and their impact practice. They're a collaborative platform where an international network of social entrepreneurs, change makers, researchers, and health professionals are working together to tackle the biggest challenges facing vulnerable populations. In some countries or some jurisdictions, that may be access to clean water. In others, it may be solar-powered oxygen delivery for hospitals. I mean, it's blood donation. It's all kinds of life-saving measures where innovation is driving it. And that's because of the work at Innovative Canadians for Change. You can help fuel the Innovation Lab by getting your tickets to the IC Change Gala today. And I hope to see you April 12th right here in the capital city of Edmonton. We sure appreciate everybody that's been joining our Real Talk live chat and checking in. We recognize that we're not able to get to all of the comments, of course, but I know that certainly gives us a better idea as John and I are both seeing the feedback to interviews as they're happening and suggestions for content in future. It makes this show better. Now, we talked to you briefly yesterday, and I recognize that some of you may not have heard about it yet. This may be your first time hearing about it, but we do now have a Real Talk Discord. This is a really neat community. It's exclusive to our Real Deal and Real VIP YouTube channel members, as well as our Real Talk patrons, those that are supporting us on Patreon. And one of the cool parts about this, Johnny, you and I were talking about it, and we wanted to highlight it today before we sign off. When we wrap our live episodes on YouTube, the live chat stops. That may be obvious. But the cool part about the Discord is that it goes 24 hours a day. So it's an opportunity for real talkers that want to connect with each other, that want to share ideas, that want to submit flamethrowers or positive reflections to keep that conversation going through the day.
Mm-hmm.
How are you managing it through the first 24 hours?
Everyone's chiming in and being like, is Johnny up all hours? But I have to get everyone in there. So when I get a notification, I want to get that person, vetted and into the chat as soon as possible. But yeah, we just noticed on YouTube, like, people try and comment a ton at the end of the show, even when the credits are rolling. I'm like, man, we should make a space where people can just go after, talk whenever they want, talk on the weekend. And, maybe we'll throw some Easter eggs in there. Maybe you'll get some foresight on what's coming up on the shows. We want to create a space where you can talk all the time and, a safe one, a private one, 18 and plus. Like we're making sure all those things are in place as well. But yeah, even Dubious just commented now. I'll see you all in the chat after the show.
I love that.
On Discord.
Yeah, Noob says the Discord is off to a good start. Says it went off the rails and I am here for it. He says great creation and thanks to John for the new undertaking. This is Cactus wondering how can we get on the Discord. Cactus, I'll reply to that personally. And others of you are just wondering. Matthew wonders, is the Discord available for levels 2 and 3 on our YouTube membership? That is correct, Matthew, as well as our Real Talk patrons. And if you are a Patreon supporter, you probably already know there are exclusive perks for our Patreon supporters. You guys are the OGs. You've been there forever. And we are seeing some new signups this week, which is really exciting. You can go to ryanjesperson.com. Just click on the connect link if you want to find us, or just Google Ryan Jesperson Patreon. Coming up on the Thursday, the 17th of April, I've asked Johnny every single day to remind me not to say where it is because it's an exclusive and secret location. We have our Real Talk debate night, the Patreon watch party. We're going to be gathering. We're going to buy you a couple of beers or pops, whatever you feel like. We'll have some light bites there. We're going to watch the debate together and talk it out. So if you're a Patreon supporter, circle the 17th of April on your calendar. You do need to RSVP and you'll need to show your digital ticket at the door, but we wanted to make sure that you knew about that. Some of you are wondering, what is Discord? Ken, I am with you. I had not a hot clue. I knew that people were talking about Discord as a thing, but you and I have always used a service called Slack to kind of make sure that the business runs seamlessly.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
Discord
is more
business.
Yeah.
Discord's kind of like Slack, but my understanding, having been signed up for like one day, is that it's a little more fun. It's a little more casual. Slack's a little more all about the business. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, there's more options on Discord. Discord, it came out of the gaming community. People wanted to chat as well as game.
Got it.
But there's tons of things. There's video chats. There's audio. There's, you can make your own custom emojis and GIFs. You can share. You can start threads and people can jump in there. But you can also, on our channel, we could create sub-channels if we want on certain discussions we want. We can inform people of announcements. But the main thing is we can keep all our supporters in one place and we don't have to get any personal information from you. We don't have to get your address. We don't have to get your email. You're just in there. Create your own, display name and a cartoon avatar if you want and just be like that. It's a way to not, infringe on our, kind of the privacy of our listeners, but also just people are showing me things in there that I didn't even know. And it's way, I'm not going to say better than Slack. They have different uses, but jump in there. If you're a Real Deal member or if you're a Real VIP member or if you're a patron, we'll be adding people every day. I open it. There's more people I got to add and vet and whatever, but I'm hoping it'll take on a life of its own and I can just come in and moderate every now and then eventually.
100%. Yeah. Chad F is in our live chat. He says gamers know all about what Discord is.
Oh yeah.
100%. And this is, so we just hope that it's kind of a fun one. Alberta Girl says, seriously, does no one else have to work? Says, I can barely fit in time for the live show. Alberta Girl, we love it. But the more that Real Talkers let us know what they want, we want to deliver. We appreciate you guys, and we want to make sure that we're providing opportunities for you to connect with one another and to better connect with the show. This is kind of just the evolution of Real Talk as we approach, can you believe this, our 5th birthday. We're not going to talk about that yet, but we're like a half a year away from our 5th birthday, if you can wrap your mind around it. Steven says, I'm in like 10 Discord channels. What's one more? Steven, we can't wait to welcome you, and we look forward to that. I did want to get to this email from Blah Sheep, and it's a big, long one, Blah Sheep, and I appreciate you sharing all your thoughts on a million different things, but I did pull out one little bit, which I thought was kind of interesting, in particular for this day, and in particular on so-called Liberation Day. On April 2nd, as we're bracing for tariffs, Blah Sheep says, you know what I think would be a better option? Has not been a big fan of Alberta and other jurisdictions pulling American liquor off the shelves. We were talking a lot about that a couple of weeks ago. It hasn't really been as big of a story over the past couple of weeks. Obviously, an election factors into that, and people's attention spans are short. But Blah Sheep says, I was not a fan of American alcohol being pulled out of stores in Canada. We should be given the right to choose. He says, in fact, I think a better option, and I thought this was timely today as we're talking about tariffs, counter tariffs, and this trade relationship. Blah Sheep says a better option would have been to cut alcohol taxes on all Canadian-made liquor. Says that would have brought Canadian prices down, but still preserved a choice on what consumers could access instead of forcing us out of the option to purchase from our favorite American distilleries and wineries. It would lower Canadian-made liquor by at least 50%, depending on the type of alcohol. I'll take your word for it. I don't know the tax structure. Says many people I've talked to don't even know that we're taxed heavily on alcohol before it even hits the shelf. I was wondering years back when I went to the States and the same bottle of tequila was like a third the price. You've seen, Johnny, in some of these American, like where the grocery stores, they sell beers and basically like you can get like a can, or you can get like a 12 pack of beer for like a half the price of what it costs in Canada. Blah Sheep says there's an invisible tax that most Canadians don't even see. And then depending on where you live, there's GST, there's HST, the carbon tax on industry and farming is all basically invisible. We don't see it. And our prices will keep jumping as they have been for the last so many years, and we're not really going to know what's behind or what's driving that price. Blah Sheep says, so I'm calling for an end to invisible taxes. Says, now I do think I'm going to vote for Pierre Poilievre. This is the part I read before to Nick from Politico. Says, but that could change in the blink of an eye. Blah Sheep is concerned that a lot of people are just voting for Mark Carney because of Donald Trump. And he says, what if this trade war ends? Then what? We should be voting for more than that. Goes on to talk about his history in Ontario and Quebec and how COVID has influenced his political perspectives. Blah Sheep says, at 29 years of age, I didn't really follow politics until COVID started changing people's lives. Blah Sheep wrote in to talk@ryanjesperson.com. We encourage you to do the same thing. We want Real Talkers to have a voice. This is your show, and we want to be able to basically give you a chance to leverage this platform to share your thoughts on what's happening in the world around you. I noticed, by the way, I apologize, I can't remember who said it, but someone in our chat earlier said they filled up as Carney lifts the consumer carbon tax, and people are saying that they're noticing gas prices are dropping almost immediately. Somebody wrote in to say they saved $17 over normal on filling up their tank this morning. So kind of interesting to see. We will, of course, wait to see how that resonates. Pierre Poilievre, that axe the tax messaging has been the lion's share of what he's put in front of Canadians. Has Mark Carney just basically pulled out those big teeth from the lion's bite? You let us know what you think. Coming up on the show tomorrow, that'll be the 3rd of April, we'll do a deep dive into what Liberation Day means for Canada, what these tariffs are going to do to industry, and how Canada will respond. Plus, we'll go on the road with Sharon Carr. You loved her last time she was on the show, and she's going to be back letting us know through her perspective the wins and the losses midway through week 2 of the federal election campaign. Send us an email anytime, leave a comment on YouTube, and tell your friends. We'll talk to you soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harman Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.